Atlanta Falcons 2-0 to start the year. The Detroit Lions 1-1. We're at Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan. Let's take a look at the line history to get started here in Detroit. This one's going to be a beauty. We have the Lions at -3 right now. That -3 is juiced to -120. This opened up at -4. So it's moved a full point. Now, when it got down to 3 this morning at 10:37 a.m. at Pinnacle, it was a pick'em. So since that 3, there's been a 14-cent move towards the Detroit Lions. Let's move over to the total here in this one, Lions, Falcons, and we're sitting at a 45.5. This opened up at 47. Again, this didn't come out until Sunday night at 7:27 p.m. It opened up at 47 and dropped down to 45.5. Now that is juiced to the over. Take a look at the cash flow then for this Atlanta Falcons spot. We have 45% of the tickets and 72% of the cash on the Falcons. You can imagine that those big bets came in at 4, although they couldn't be too big, as we know there are limits until about midnight tonight into Wednesday. From a total scenario, 47% of the tickets and 69% of the cash is on the under. Sammy Calmer leaning to the over. Jarek White said he's fading the Falcons. It's taken me a long time to say that properly. Falcons. Falcons are now 2-0 after outscoring the Packers 13-0 in the fourth quarter on their way to a 25-24 victory. Now, they dominated yardage and possession. They outgained the Packers 446 to 224. They held the ball for 36 minutes and 15 seconds of the game. Desmond Ridder looked better, 19 of 32 for 237 yards, touchdown and a pick. He also ran 10 times for 39 yards and a touchdown, something we've been curious to see if we'll see more of. We certainly didn't see much of it in his 4 games last year. The Falcons were once again carried by their ground game, and this is still a ground game that doesn't have Cordero Patterson in it. He did not play for the second straight week, even though he was not even on the team's final injury report. It's very interesting what's going on there. You expect him to be a big piece of this puzzle, so maybe he will be this week. Bijan Robinson, what a monster game, ran 19 times for 124 yards, caught 4 passes for 48 yards. Robinson, Algier, and Ridder combined for 45 carries and 211 yards and 1 touchdown. And Drake London finally got a piece of the pie. 0 catches and 1 target in week 1. 4 catches for 67 yards and a touchdown week 2. Now, only 5 Falcons caught passes. They were hurt by going just 2 of 5 in the red zone. We're going to see a lot of that from these younger or pseudo rookie quarterbacks, even though he did play 4 games last year. They didn't get much pressure on Jordan Love. 1 sack, 3 quarterback hits, but they shut down the pack when it counted. In those last 3 possessions, the Packers got 11 yards, no first downs. Love did not complete any of his 6 passes. The Packers were just 3 of 9 on third down, and they were held to 224 yards. So the defense is impressive. And I think Arthur Smith is not a good coach. I think he's a great coach. I really believe in what he's doing. I always have since he came aboard. The Lions come in off a disappointing 37-31 overtime loss at home at the hands of the Seahawks. Goff had another strong game, 28 of 35, 323 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. That interception was his first in 383 attempts, so he was only 30 away from Aaron Rodgers' NFL record. But it was returned 40 yards for a TD. I mean, they lose the turnover battle 3-0, and that cost them the game. The Lions were 6 of 11 on third down. They put up 418 total yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown caught 6 passes for 102 yards, but he lost a fumble, and he has a turf toe injury. So he was seen putting a steel plate in his shoe and taping his big toe up. And Troy can touch on that much more than I can, what you have to do to handle turf toe. He's playing through it, and if it's an issue here, I don't know how he's going to be able to run and cut at his highest level. So is he going to sit a week or 2? I don't see this being talked about at most places right now. But it's crucial for us to look at the practice reports and see what's going on with him and turf toe. Josh Reynolds caught 5 passes for 66 yards, 2 touchdowns. Sammy Laporta had 5 receptions for 63 yards. David Montgomery ran 16 times for 67 yards. He also caught a pass for 7 yards, but he lost a fumble. The defense looked awful. They got no pressure on Geno. They sacked him once and hit him once, despite Seattle starting Stone Forsythe and Jake Curran in place of Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas. We saw how bad they looked in week 1. Did they improve like wildly in 7 days, or is the Lions defense a lot weaker than we expected? They allowed the Seahawks to put up 393 total yards, go 5 of 11 on third down, and 4 of 5 in the red zone. Defensive end James Houston fractured his ankle. He's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. Montgomery was carted off the field in the fourth quarter, but Campbell's saying it's just a bruise. His status is unclear. If Montgomery can't go, then Jahmyr Gibbs will get a much bigger workload. And Jahmyr Gibbs ran 7 times for 17 yards, got 7 of 9 targets for 39 yards. And then Vaitai Halapoulivaati limped off the field in the fourth quarter, and he hurt his knee. They haven't given exactly what's going on, but he's expected to be out for a few weeks. So they already have Taylor Decker inactive. That meant Matt Nelson was in the starting lineup. So the way we see it right now, this defense isn't as good as we thought, and this offensive line is hurting. And I see why this move has gone from 4 to 3 for the Falcons, but I don't want to jump all over 1 week of football and make bold statements about who the Detroit Lions are. Maybe you can help us here. Take it away, Troy. Falcons, Lions.
This Lions team, just like the Browns, kind of broke my heart this past week. A lot of because of what Jimmy was talking about with their defense. I mean, their defense across the board rates in the bottom third of the league, maybe even more, bottom 15% of the league, 31st, 26th, 26th. I mean, doesn't matter what it is. They're all the bottom tier of the NFL right now, and they cannot guard in the passing game. Let's talk about the offense real quick because they do have some injuries. Amon-Ra St. Brown, you're asking me about turf toe. Well, turf toe is, in what my opinion was one of the main reasons why I didn't have that chance in the NFL, because of this history of turf toe that I ended up getting some major surgery on after my football career. And let me tell you, man, turf toe is nothing to be fucked with. I'm surprised. I'm looking at some injury reports right now. I'm surprised. Everything looks like he's in and good to go. But if you keep playing on turf toe, you're playing with fire. You're playing with your career, because if you can't get off the ball when you're driving into the ground, you're putting your back foot into the ground, you're driving off the ball, that's where it hurts. It's not going to hurt as much as in the routes. It's going to hurt on your get off. Your first 2-3 steps, your explosiveness is going to be heavily impacted. So, I mean, if it were me, I would keep him out of the game. I don't know if that's going to happen, but they're playing with fire with him. And this offensive line, yeah, they're going to have some injuries, but they've been really, really good. Third in both pass and run blocking. They only allowed pressure on 8% of the Goff's pass attempts. And Goff, through 2 weeks, has the lowest poor pass percentage in the NFL. It's funny that one of those poor passes that he made got picked off and taken back for a touchdown. So it's a little unlucky, in my opinion. But still, this Lions defense is like, I'm not trying to make excuses for this defense because it was bad. And if you rewatch the tape, it is every bit as bad as you think it would be. No pressure on Geno Smith, the ability to make all the decisions in the pocket that he likes. And I just, without CJ Gardner-Johnson, I mean, I'm going to be looking towards some props, I think, on the Falcons at wide receiver, whether it's receptions or longest reception. I think I'd be going with those two routes. I'll be looking towards Drake London or maybe a Mac Hollins longest reception. I mean, you lose CJ Gardner-Johnson, and now you're going to be dependent on Breon Branch, who I think they're going to move back. He's a rookie. They're going to put him back at safety, and I think that's going to be a whole new look for them. So, yeah, I'm not very high on this Lions team on the defense, especially. For the Falcons, despite this win against Green Bay, I mean, I'm not really impressed with this team. They were down by double digits heading into the fourth quarter versus the Packers, and they were tied against the Panthers, who's starting to look more and more like a really bad team, especially early in the season as Bryce Young is starting to get his feet under himself. But can the Falcons have those fourth quarters on the road with Desmond Ridder at quarterback? That remains to be seen. I think the Packers lost that game more than the Falcons won that game, and it was a lot of conservative play by the quarterback. Both these quarterbacks I'm talking about the Packers now, but Desmond Ridder has he's passing for the lowest amount of attempts in the league. I don't think that's any surprise to you. And that's because their run blocking is one of the best in the NFL, rated 4th, and their pass block is one of the worst, rated 28th. It was great to see them incorporate Drake London. The utilization of Bijan Robinson, I think is beautiful, what they've done with him. But if you go back and watch the film on Desmond Ridder, he threw 4 picks that game. Only one got picked, but he threw 4 of them. And one got dropped that would have been for 6. It would have been a touchdown in his own territory. So I don't want to make excuses for this kid. Yeah, he made plays down the stretch, but it was only one in the last 2 scoring possessions that they had. It was just one big throw. So I mean, I still don't want Desmond Ridder as my quarterback in a 2-minute drill. Definitely not, especially on the road. On the defensive side of things, they're very average in the secondary, and that's probably a reflection of their bad pass rush, which is ranked 23rd right now. And their run defense, surprisingly, is 4th. But who is that against? The Packers without Aaron Jones and the Panthers with a bad offensive line and no identity on the offensive side. Looking at what Sammy Coleman was saying in the chat, I think I'm agreeing with him. I'm liking an over in this game. I'm not sure if I want a team total or if I just want the full game over, because it's getting up there. It's getting up to the limits of where I would like to bet it at. But still, yeah, I'd be looking towards a team total over in this game and probably on the Lions. And this number getting down to 3, I mean, that 2.5, just like with the Browns. I mean, I think if it gets to 2.5, I might be grabbing some Lions.
And then, I mean, that would happen if Monroe St. Brown was announced out. Birdie says he's not touching this game now. He bet the Falcons +5 on Monday morning. He says wrong team is favored here. Should be a pick 'em. The only issue is Falcons traveling next week, or he would pound the table.
So here you go, Jimmy. I got a number for you. I forgot to drop this. So since 28, and this is why I haven't moved on the Lions, because of course I wanted the Lions after taking an L with them. I like grabbing my team again in the following week. Since 2018, home favorites that lost as a home favorite in their prior game, and the spread is shorter than 4.5. They're just 5-15 ATS.
Wow. I mean, you can still get that 3.5. It's at -115 at Pinnacle if you want the Falcons at that number. And this is another total that doesn't make sense to me. The drop from 47 down to 45.5 doesn't make sense. And I just don't feel at this point that I want to get in the way of those. But, a capper with confidence would. And Dennis Garcia wants to. Dennis Garcia says he already bet the over, and he'll bet Detroit at some point if it keeps dropping.
Jimmy, do you think the Lions could stop the run?
I mean, have we seen any sign of it? The Seahawks, a lot of what the Seahawks did to them was through the air, but.
And on offense last year, the Seahawks, I'm pulling it up right now, but I'm pretty sure they were highly efficient. They were 5th overall, averaging 4.8 yards per carry. And they did a good job versus the run, but I mean, why would you run the ball when you could just find open holes when you're throwing
Yeah, I don't, this makes very little sense to me here, that this would be dropping. And when something doesn't make sense to me, I don't attack it. I kind of take a step back. The Falcons +3.5, I feel like that does make sense. But as you said, 2-minute drill, who do you want, Goff or Ridder? I mean, it's not even worth bringing up. Of course, the way Goff is playing, you'd want Goff, and Ridder can't really be trusted with his arm. So this is tricky. This is all very, very tricky for me. So I guess when it's said and done, I guess I can lean to the Falcons. Birdie said if they weren't heading over to UK next week that he would be on the Falcons money line. I think that 3.5 is, it's something that you must get, is that 3.5. So nothing here at this point, but I understand why people are on the over. I really do. And Troy, do you have anything here as a lean, or do we move past it?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards a team total over with the Lions, but I haven't gotten there yet.
All right, so I'm just going to put that note down for me. Troy is leaning to the Lions team total over. All right, let's move